Hello, in this lesson I'm going to talk about making charts. Okay, now making charts is actually quite easy in Excel, but making good charts isn't always that easy. Okay, so there are a number of things that you need to think about when you make a chart. Okay, first of all, let's talk about types of charts. Now, what type of charts do you know? Okay, think about that for a second. Okay, so you might have thought about pie charts or bar charts, column charts, things like that. Okay. Okay, so why use a chart in the first place? Okay, so I want you to also think about that for a minute. Go ahead and pause the video. Okay, do it now. Okay, now that you're back, hopefully you've thought about that for a bit, why you actually use charts. Now, I think the main reason to use charts is that it gives a message that you just don't get by looking at numbers, right? If I give you a table full of data, you could get essentially the same information, right? You could just look at the numbers. Okay, so why use a chart? Sometimes charts work more quickly because they're visual. You can just see like how big a bar is or how much of a piece of pie there is in that pie chart. Okay, so sometimes we can just get a message very quickly from using a chart, whereas data might be more accurate, but it might be slower to actually find the message that we want. Okay. The easiest way to make a chart is if you can actually fit your data into axes. Okay, so often charts have an x-axis and a y-axis. Okay, so we're going to take a look really quickly. And if I have data like this, our chart would, think about it, have an x-axis and a y-axis. Which data would be on each? Okay. Now you might start thinking, okay, obviously I have some people, so we're going to put them at the bottom, and then there's going to be probably bars that measure how much these numbers is. I don't know what these are. These might be sales figures. This might be how many joints they smoke in a year. Hopefully not. They'd probably be dead from smoking too many joints, but right, some sort of measure. Okay, so taking that, we can just go into insert and choose a chart. Now you can choose one of these. They are categorized, so you have pie charts and bars and columns and lines and stuff like that. You can also go into recommended charts. That's sometimes nice too. That kind of give you a preview, shows like it can recommend either a column or a pie or bar. Okay, so you can see that Excel often does a pretty good job of predicting, and you can see, as we said, and here we have the people and how many joints they smoke, or whatever you want. Okay, doesn't have to be joints, right? Let's try something else. Let's try a line chart. Okay, so let's say I have a formula like y equals x squared. Oops. Y equals x squared. Okay, so help me do the math here, since you guys are really good at math, right? So x, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, oops, 7, 8. Right. What would that be? X squared? It'd be 1, 4, 9, right? Your brain start hurting yet? Okay, let's let Excel do it. Equals x exponent 2. Okay, and we can autocomplete. Okay, so let's make a chart for that. Let's make a line, right? You've probably seen this in math. What does this graph looks like? It's an exponential curve. Okay, so let's take that and let's insert a line chart. Okay, and I just want to show you this. I think if you go to recommended, it gives you something a little bit better. But let's say you do, in fact, use this. You go direct to the line and you go like this. And what happens is that it gives you two lines. You're like, that's not cool. That's not what I want. I just want the exponential curve. This one here of y. I don't need to know the x. X is already stated here on the bottom, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 8, and we just need to get the corresponding, right? 8 squared is 64, so that should be there. We just want that line there. Now, if you ever want to modify the data of a chart, okay, just click on the chart. You can see it's selected there, and just go up to here, right? You get this design tab. Once you, are clicking on a chart, you get these new tabs here, design. And I can go to select data, and here is actually where you can actually control all the different parts of your chart. Okay, here you have your data range, which is all that there, and here you can choose what you want to see, legend series, okay, which series you want. And I just want this Y, I don't want the X, so I can actually just turn that off. Okay, and you can see that it does end up with the line that I want, right? Do that again. If you want to get rid of it completely, you can just remove it, right, altogether. Okay, and if it ever happens that if these don't come out right, which sometimes happens, sometimes you do have like the names of people, and for some reason Excel tries to make them like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're like, no, it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It should be John, Ray, Debbie. You can just go to edit here. Once you edit, you can just kind of select what you want. So you don't want 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can select the names here, and it'll actually insert those there. Okay, so if that ever happens to you, you know that you can go into the select data and modify all the different parts. Okay, next thing you might want to modify is the title. Okay, always give it a descriptive title, right? Y equals x squared. Okay, and we don't need that. Anything you don't need, you can just delete, get rid of. Right. So there's my line, y equals x squared. Okay, here we go. Nice title, right? Of vodka during Corona. Yeah, people are home, nothing to do, drink some vodka, booze it up, right? Rage on. Okay, so yeah, have a nice title. That's probably, I think, the most important thing about a chart is having a title, because that's basically the message that you're trying to give, right? And we said charts give a message. What's the message you're giving? Right there in the title. Okay. Now, in Excel, you get these options right here, chart elements. Now, on the Windows version of Microsoft Excel, it does happen right here. If you're using a Mac version, I don't think they have this plus sign, and you're going to have to go into the Design tab and right there add chart element. And it's more or less the same thing. You have axis, chart title, data labels, legend, and so on and so forth, right? But here, easily accessible. Some nice options here. For example, if I want data labels, those are often nice. Okay, so you get the numbers right above your bars there. Here, data labels, you can see them there. Here we have a line because data actually exists in between these values. Actually, between number 1 and 2, if I did like 1.5 squared, I would arrive at this point in the line. Same if I did like 2.7 squared, that would actually be this point in this line. Whereas this would not be a good line chart because there's actually no information between John and Ray. So it's not like John 0.5 or something like that has some value, right? And Ray 0.5, right? That just doesn't make sense. So be careful when you're selecting your charts. Lines can be used for continuous data that have data in between these values, whereas bars should be used when they are distinct and there's no information in between. Okay, so remember that. I will penalize you if you choose the wrong chart. So don't choose line charts when you shouldn't. So speaking of using the right charts, okay, so know when you use a chart, when it's better to just leave it as a table, right? If you're just strictly referencing numbers, tables are often better because they're more complete. They have all the numbers. So if you're just looking up values, a table is fine. But if you have a message in the shape of the chart, if it's growing, if it's going up and down, you're comparing these things. These are when graphs and charts really excel. Okay. Hey, I just made a funny. Excel, right? Get it? No. Okay. Whatever. Okay. Moving along. Never mind. I know you're laughing at home. You guys are supposed to be laughing at my jokes, right? It's part of your grade, right? Do laugh. I can hear you from all the way in my house. Okay. Types of charts. So, like I said, pick the right chart for the right type of data. If I'm doing parts of a whole, right, I'm using a pie chart, right? How much of the whole, right? Half of it, right? All of the population and half of the population, a quarter of the population. So if I'm doing parts of the whole, that's when pie charts are good. If I'm doing things like continuous data, like time, right? Looking at something over a period of time, time is continuous. There's data all in between. Lines are great. Okay, if I'm doing comparison, ranking of different people or different things, that's where bar charts and column charts are the best. Okay, there's other ones too. Scatter plots, there's an example here. Scatter plots are good to see if things are related, right? Correlation, for example, ice cream sales and temperature, right? As the temperature outside gets hotter, we can assume that there's going to be more ice cream sales. So you can kind of plot that data, or you can plot data like rising sea levels. So keeping track of the different years and the sea level, and you can see if there is actually a correlation between time and rising sea levels, etc. Okay, so I have a link at the end here which you should read. So these links will help you kind of choose charts to use, so make sure you take a look at that. Okay, so I'm going to do an example, but I'm going to save it for my next video because this is already approaching 15 minutes and I do have a 15-minute limit on videos, so get ready for part 2.